You know, in a world where we're all just endlessly scrolling and making these fleeting connections, how do you actually build genuine influence, the kind that really lasts? Well, today we're diving into a timeless classic, Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, but we're looking at it through a 21st century lens. We're going to see how its core ideas have been rebooted for the hyper-connected digital world we all live in.
Think about it. We have more followers, more friends, and more ways to communicate than at any point in human history. But here's the big question. Is all this digital chatter actually leading to deeper, more meaningful human connection? The material we're digging into today suggests that, well, maybe not. In our race for instant communication, we often end up sacrificing real connection for what you might call transactional proficiency. And in this era of hair trigger balances, as the source puts it, the stakes are just incredibly high. A poorly worded email, a tweet that gets taken out of context, a text that just doesn't land right. Any of these can instantly blow up relationships and reputations. So things like empathy and being precise in how we talk to each other, they're not just nice to have soft skills anymore. Nope, they're essential survival tools. So, how do we navigate this digital minefield and start building that genuine influence? Well, Carnegie's very first principle tackles the single biggest mistake we all tend to make in our interactions. It's this fundamental error that can totally sabotage our efforts before we even get started.
The best way to think about criticism is like a boomerang. It might feel pretty satisfying to throw it, but it almost always comes flying right back to hit you. It just triggers our deepest self-preservation instincts, right? It makes people get defensive and, frankly, resentful. But understanding, that's the complete opposite. It's like the key that unlocks the door to collaboration and builds real, lasting goodwill. So the very first step to building anything positive is to just stop doing the one thing that's guaranteed to tear it down. Instead of passing judgment, the goal should be to understand, to ask why. Why do people think the way they do? Why do they act the way they do, especially when we disagree? This isn't about being a pushover. It's about being incredibly smart. And if you think this is easy, just take a look at Abraham Lincoln. Early in his career, he was actually known for publicly mocking his opponents. But he learned the hard way that it was a losing game. He eventually evolved into a leader who, even in the middle of the Civil War, chose restraint over condemnation. He understood that sharp criticism pretty much always ends in failure.
But look, it's not enough to just stop criticizing. That just leaves an empty space. You have to replace that negative energy with something else, something powerful and positive. And that brings us to the real secret of how to forge these genuine connections. The source material reframes Carnegie's entire work not as self-help, but as soul help. And that's a huge shift in perspective, right? It's not about self-promotion anymore. It's about having a genuine interest in other people and actually taking delight in helping them succeed. Real, sustainable influence is always an outward-facing thing. And this breaks down the whole engine of connection into a pretty simple, actionable process. First, get genuinely interested in other people. Second, you have to fight that modern urge for skitterish impatience and just listen, truly listen, longer than you normally would. And third, offer sincere appreciation. We're not talking about empty flattery here, but honest praise for what's good. Now, when you start to master this process of connection, you begin to build the most valuable currency in any relationship, trust. But how do you earn it? And maybe more importantly, how do you keep it, especially when conflicts pop up? This chart is such a powerful tool for looking at our own communication. Are we having dialogues, or are we just delivering monologues? A dialogue is authentic and it builds trust. A monologue, well, it feels manipulative and it just builds tension. So you have to ask yourself, in your conversations, are you really trying to connect, or are you just waiting for your turn to speak? In the highly argumentative culture we live in today, Carnegie's next piece of advice might feel a little radical. He argues that you can't really win an argument. Even if you win on facts and logic, you almost always lose the goodwill of the other person. So the only way to truly get the best of an argument is to avoid it altogether. But okay, what happens when you're the one who's in the wrong? The most effective people don't double down. They do the exact opposite. They admit their faults and they do it quickly and emphatically. It has this incredible disarming effect. It builds a ton of trust and, crazily enough, it makes the other person more willing to listen and maybe even change their own behavior. So, what is the ultimate takeaway from all of this? How do we actually apply these principles in our daily lives, which are just filled with emails, social media feeds, and virtual meetings? We are absolutely drowning in a sea of what the source calls dime store influence. You know what I mean? It's superficial, it's measured in likes and followers, and it's built on noise instead of actual substance. It's so easy to confuse being seen online with having a real impact.
But here's the thing. In a world that's so saturated with digital noise, these basic, fundamental principles of human connection, they are not obsolete. They are more relevant and more powerful than ever. Mastering them isn't just a nice skill to have, it is a profound competitive advantage. It's what will set you apart as a trusted friend, a valued colleague, and a truly effective leader.
And that is the core message right there. While the tools we use to communicate have changed in ways Dale Carnegie couldn't have even imagined, the fundamental operating system of human beings, our desires, our fears, our need for connection, that has not changed one bit. So winning friends and influencing people in this digital age isn't about mastering some new app or learning a secret online trick. It all starts with a simple yet profound choice in your very next interaction, to make the conversation about the other person and not just about you. The only question left is, where can you put that into practice today?